Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Binford Chronicles. And I'm Joanne Binford, and today's topic is financial planning. Give me a second here. My phone was beeping, and it is still on. So give me a second, guys. I was just, there we go. Got it all taken care of. All right. Now, wouldn't you agree we're living in uncertain economic times? Have you been wondering when is the right time to start working on a plan that secures future finances? Do you need help in making sense of stocks, crypto, precious metals, taxes, and more? I know I do. I still can't figure out crypto. It feels like fiat, but the fiat that tracks you. The best thing about fiat right now is that it doesn't track you. Nobody can tell what you're buying. Um, so today, I really wanted to have Joe Lombardi, managing director at Ironhawk Financial. He's going to break it down for us. He's going to discuss ways to secure a financially stable future. Today's show, it's not only for those that haven't gotten started on planning for a financial stable future, but it's also for everyone that wants the best options to learn what the other companies don't want you to know. Joe Lombardi isn't just a wealth management specialist at Ironhawk Financial. He's also an America First professional. As you know, I love to support America First issues, people, and businesses. And today, Joe Lombardi is going to empower your financial journey with expert advice and the best ways to build a strong financial foundation in our volatile economy. In these times, it's never too late to start securing a financial stable future for your family and business. So listen, folks, stay tuned for an empowering discussion focused on controlling and securing your financial future. That's right. We've got to take a short break, a short commercial break. So don't go anywhere.
Here at Ironhawk Financial, we specialize in protecting what matters most: your business, your finances, and your family.
I first met Joe several years ago. He was referred to me from a close friend of mine, and Joe really helped us with our insurance needs. He sat down with me and some of my partners and strategized with us and asked us what we were looking to get out of life, what we were looking to get out of our careers, our family lives.
Periodically, I come out to my client's job site because it helps you get a better understanding of their business.
What Joe did for me and my family is he actually met with us at my house and went over the options, gave us an education on what the options were. And now because of Joe, my wife and I and my kids, we have insurance that gives us peace of mind. We know that any day I can go to work and I'm not going to leave my family hanging without coverage.
The reason I'm here is I have a strategy that protects businesses and business owners from the four things that are guaranteed to happen to every human. One is you live long, one is you die early, one is you get disabled, and the other one is if you need care.
The great thing about Joe is that he listened to us and he understood what we were looking to accomplish, and he was able to custom tailor a insurance policy and product that was custom just for us.
One of the things that I love most about what we do here is not only are we providing our clients with financial stability, but we're also providing them with essential protections to protect themselves and their families as they age and enter into retirement.
Taxes are going to continue to go up. We owe $30.3 trillion as a nation. Once we got over around 20 trillion, our entire GDP doesn't even cover the interest on that debt. And what the government does is they provide a retirement account. It's called qualified. It allows people to put money in, have a write-off now, but then you're going to have to pay the taxes later. The concept is that when I hit retirement, I'm going to be making way less money. But what I have found doing this for nearly 2 decades is that's not true. You don't just hit retirement and then cut your expenses by 70% and live in poverty. So by deferring your taxes, all you're doing is creating a huge tax liability for yourself. So with my strategy, I can build you a tax.
Welcome back to Binford Chronicles. This is Joanne Binford, and joining me today is Joe Lombardi, Wealth Management Specialist and Managing Director at Ironhawk Financial. Joe, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on your show, Joanne.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear what you have to tell us about the financial industry. And, like I said earlier, I can't wrap crypto around my head and all these other ways to set ourselves up financially. What can you tell us today?
At the end of the day, you have to build a strong financial foundation before you even think of doing crypto or stocks or anything. I watched my dad fall 3 stories off a ladder and lose a $27 million construction company that took him decades to build. And he had millions in a Payne Weber account, which is now, bought out by UBS. And he had no disability. And everything he worked for day after day, week after week, year after year, decade after decade was taken from him. And it bothered me. And I was 15 at that time. My sister was born 2 pounds 7 ounces fetal alcohol syndrome. She almost died. My ex-stepmom drank fetal extract and Listerine during pregnancy because my father's been in AA since 1991. So she knew she couldn't bring in any hard liquor or we would have known. So she hid it. And so here I am, 15, with a 2-year-old sister, and my dad's in the hospital. My ex-stepmom's in rehab, and there's no adult in the house. There's nobody over the age of 18. So I had to drop out of football, track, and basketball, work at a daycare. My dad was having rehabilitation, surgery after surgery, rehabilitation after rehabilitation. When he came out of the hospital 2 years later, all his houses were foreclosed on, all his trucks were stolen, all his tools were gone. The workers relettered the trucks because they're like, oh, he's gonna be gone for years. Let's just take what he has and make some money because they have families to feed. So he came back to absolutely nothing, right? And
Wow.
so it was God showing me like, hey, this is a problem. How many Americans are out there that have no protection in case? What if you can't work tomorrow? What if you can't work tomorrow for a month? What if you can't work tomorrow for a year? Do you have the resources? Do you have everything set up? Most people, the answer is no. And then shortly after that, my mom dies at 52 years old, cirrhosis of liver, and she had no life insurance. And after my dad divorced my mom at 4, because my mom wanted to drink and party and do drugs. And, so at 4 years old, she left, and I only saw her once a year on, court visitation. I had to fly to Florida every year. Yay, from Connecticut. That crippled me emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and then financially, and then literally within 12 months after that, my grandmother has a stroke, led to dementia. My grandfather dies. He owned Lombardi Masonry. She inherited $4.2 million, and that was stolen by Ludlow Nursing Home in Fairfield, Connecticut, across from Sacred Heart University. $4.2 million gone. Again, 40 years, my grandfather in masonry, concrete, bricks, rocks, rock walls, gone. She had no long-term care.
Wow.
And I said, how many other people are out there that have no protection? They're literally living with, if something happens, a sickness, a diagnosis, an injury, like everything you've worked for is gone. And then I realized most business owners have spent way too much money on insurance, health insurance, car insurance, auto, liability, workman's comp, business auto. They don't want any more insurance. So I said, well, is there a way for somebody to have these things in place, but actually make money and save hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in taxation? And about 22 years ago, I found out, yeah, there is a way. It's called IRS Code Section 7702. And so for the last 22 years, I've been on the grind trying to educate people. I have over 3,000 clients, over $3 billion with a B dollars of protection and rollovers in my career, 30 awards, magazine covers, publications, you name it. Because at the end of the day, everyone needs what we offer, but nobody understands what it is. Nobody even understands what IRS Code Section 401k is, how expensive it is. When you're contributing to that on a daily, weekly, monthly paycheck basis, over half your money is stolen by Wall Street. And yes, I've worked in Wall Street, so sorry, until I realized. So if I'm paying 1.5% in fees, well, what are the fees? 12B1 fee, Class A share fund fee, money manager fee, annual account fee, mutual fund expense fee. If I'm paying all these fees on the way up, well, what's 1.5 times 30? That would be 45%. Well, that would be if it's simple. That would be if it's just on what you're contributing, but it's not on what you're contributing. It's on the account value. So if you have $1 million in your 401k, you're being charged $15,000 a year in fees.
Wow.
Then when you take the money out, right? So while you're accumulating, Wall Street's salivating, you're paying for some schmuck's Lamborghini, good for you. You're not getting any value for that fee. They're not meeting with you. They're not diversifying. You're some sort of BS target fund earning nothing. And then on the way down, right, when you actually take the money out, what do you have? You have federal tax, state tax, FICA, Medicare, unemployment, Social Security tax. So on the way down, you're paying 50% to the state and federal government. So you're investing in an account where you get less than a quarter, less than 25% of what you put in compounding over 30 years and thinking, oh, I'm doing good. Yeah, you're doing the right thing, saving for retirement, but you're doing it the wrong way. You think
Wow.
millionaires and billionaires have 401ks and IRAs and SEPs and simples and pensions and 403bs and 457s, even college planning, 529s, Chet's Rydell's? No, they invest in this strategy. The strategy is sue-proof, divorce-proof, can't lose, averaging double-digit returns for the last 20 years, tax-free compounding, documented, can lean the money out. So, and I
Wow.
know I'm like speaking too fast on too many different things, but when you understand what's going on in America, you understand that the federal government, which owns the state governments, and they train what? The education system. Thank God for
the
Trump getting
the
rid of that.
failing education
What are
system.
we, like 27th in math and English? Yeah, we were the
Oh,
number
it's
one
terrible.
paying education in the world, and we're the worst. So when you understand what's really going on, you say, step back. Do I really trust a government that if I don't pay them their tax, which it's for the highways and the roads? Yeah, go look at all the potholes and look at the education. When you understand what's really going on, you have to step back and say, what is the best financial strategy for me? And I meet people all the time that are multimillionaires that they got there by just sheer, I'm not going to say luck, but they didn't know what they were doing. Let's put it that way. So you
Wow.
want to work with somebody who actually knows what's going on, what the ultra wealthy are doing, because I work with Fortune 500 companies. I'm on all the DraftKings commercials nationwide. And when you understand, you look into it and say, I want to work with somebody who has my best interest at heart. So you have to be high rated.
Mhm.
That would be
Yeah.
A+ rated on the Better Business Bureau, 0 complaints, thousands of clients, 4.9 star rated on Google, because one of my competitors gave me a 1-star rating a month or two ago. But I was 5-star almost my whole career. But when you understand what's going on, you say, I need to find somebody. Well, this must be expensive. It's free. It's no cost to you, to show you exactly how it works, what it does. Well, what if I want to work with you? Again, it's free. I get paid by the investment and insurance companies that I have agreements with. I have agreements with over 200 of them. So I'm what you call a master broker. I don't work for one carrier where I put the carrier's best interest above my clients because I have to sell them my carrier's products, whether they're the best or not, so I can pay my sales manager and the general agent of the company money. No, we are all, Ironhawk Financial is all independent brokers who put their clients first, and we're nationwide. We have hundreds of strategic partners, agents, and we just try to bring value to our clients by telling them the truth. And sometimes
Mhm.
the truth hurts, and sometimes people have to put their pride aside and say, yeah, I really don't know what I'm doing.
So, Joseph, if you're working for those the carriers, do you get paid from the client and the carrier?
Nope. I'm only paid by the carrier from the general account. So there's something called FYC, first year commission. So if I bring a
Mhm.
carrier like $100,000, they pay me $5,000. You're like, oh my God, 5%? That's a one time only. And then I'm your advisor for 30 years. So what is that, like 20 basis points? So when you really understand it, and does that come directly out of my client's account? No, it comes out of the general account of the investment insurance companies. So and I only utilize mutual companies that are A+ rated and 100+ years of longevity that survived the Civil War, World War I, the Great Depression, World War II, never needed outsourced money, never went public to do an IPO. This is where the millionaires and billionaires are putting your money, because it is a $1 trillion industry with a T, $1 trillion industry that the average American doesn't know exists. So who's funding it? If there's trillions of dollars going into this, but it's not like a normal middle class, high middle class, low middle class type of strategy, then who's funding it? Well, that would be the ultra wealthy are funding it.
So is that 5,000? That 5,000 is like a flat fee in the beginning?
That's just an example. There's no
Okay.
cost to my
Okay.
clients. At the end of the day, I roll over $100 million a year into fixed index annuities. I do over couple $1 million a year into index universal life policies. But I've written books on these. I have 3 books on Amazon. If you look up Joseph Lombardi on Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
you'll see I've written Being Your Own Bank, There's a Better Way Than a 401k, and Long-Term Care Without Long-Term Pain, because my experience and my reality on this earth has shaken me to the core when I have to go through so much emotional, spiritual, and mental pain, which then leads to financial pain. You don't want to be there, and you don't want your spouse or children to be there. I promise you, you don't.
Yeah, your story is pretty heartfelt. All that you have gone through, and for you to build this business for yourself and really do well for yourself, that's amazing. You were pulling at my heartstrings there. So, what are my all-in costs, like you were describing? I don't know, one-time fees or yearly fees, or how long are fees? How long
I can roll
do you pay?
clients' 401ks and IRAs where there's zero cost. Zero. Zero plus zero. Zero. So I can roll your 50,000, 100,000, $500,000 IRA, 401k, supplemental pension into a fixed index annuity managed by $1 trillion company, which then is again managed by a company like Morgan Stanley or PIMCO, and there's zero cost to you. And that's still averaging close to double digits. If you want to pay a 1% annual fee to get more returns, historically, those strategies are averaging over 15% rate of returns. So when you understand, it's up to my clients, right? If my client's aggressive, they're saying, hey, Joe, I'm behind the 8 ball. I need more returns because inflation and interest rates are kicking my butt. And I need to invest as much as I can. I need the highest return possible. So, but again, I've never lost a client $1 in 22 years. How have you never lost a client $1 in 22 years? Because both of my strategies, whether it's the tax-free one or the taxable rollover one from an existing taxable account, if you do that, both of them use option contracts. Now, the average American, right over their head.
Yeah, explain that. Option contracts.
So you ever hear the movie The Big Short, where the guy bet against the mortgage-backed industry and made $1 billion? It's a huge movie. Had millions and millions and millions of people come to the theaters to watch it. Well, what a short is you're betting that the market's going to go down. What a call is, you're betting the market's going to go up. What a put is betting the market to go down, and what a long is betting the market to go up. So you can bet as if you're betting on DraftKings. Hence, I'm on all the commercials. And you could take that bet and say, I'm going to go with an investment company that has an insurance company wrapper around it. So the insurance company wrapper says, hey, fixed. You're guaranteed not to lose, in writing, by $1 trillion company, 130 years in existence. But I have an index sub-account. So the index sub-account is usually linked to an index fund. So the index fund, if the market goes up, do I get 100% of the fund? Some of these funds pay 300% of whatever the fund does. So if the fund gets 5%, you get 15. If the fund loses 5%, you get 0. So how does that work? Doesn't make any sense. I can invest and have my money just grow and I can never lose. And this is legal? It's like, yes. How do they do it? Well, let's take a company like Allianz, for example. They're one of the many carriers I use. I give them millions and millions and millions of dollars a month. And how it works is their general account, right? They're $1 trillion company. Their general account's averaging around 6%. So let's say you rolled $1 million into it. Do you have to have $1 million to do this? No, I'm just using this as an example. You roll $1 million into it. They're going to front pay you the $60,000. So now your account value is $940, and they give you $60,000 up front. And there's also a 14% bonus to roll your money over. So they give you like a free $140,000 just for joining. If you stay the full 10 years, you keep it, 140 G's in your pocket and interest on that. But I digress. So let's say you roll $1 million over. They take $60,000 because their general account is guaranteed to pay 6%. So 940 at times 1.06, you're going to get your $1 million back. at the end of 12 months, regardless of what happens to the 60 grand. So they take the 60 grand, they buy option contracts with it. They buy calls and they buy longs. And if the market does well, you make a boatload of money. If the market doesn't do well, then you still have your $1 million. So that is, in my opinion, historically, you don't take my opinion, look at numbers. Men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. Numerically, it is a far superior strategy than what? Than a fixed account, than a CD, than a MYGA. It's a far superior. I mean, you're averaging 300 to 400% more historically. Is history guaranteed the future? No, but you're still guaranteed not to lose. So when you understand, hey, in that strategy, I can pay a 1% fee. So, okay, I'm going to pay $10,000. Well, why would I pay $10,000? Because they're going to give you more option contracts. So instead of 60 grand, they're going to give you like 90 grand of option contracts. So this is the strategy of it. Most investment people that have a decent amount of investment can understand it. The average American is like, I don't even know why I have an IRA or a 401k or brokerage account. I just heard it was the best thing to do. I talked to somebody at a bank, which, by the way, every financial advisor at a bank, unless they're separate from the bank, is not licensed. They're licensed from the bank. They're not personally licensed. So most Americans are talking to unlicensed people that are licensed because the bank's licensed. Now they can be unlicensed, have no liability, and say, hey, listen, I'm going to take your money and we're going to do this, and this because I'm your banker. But when you look at gangster and banker, it's very close. And, you look at Wall Street, full of gangsters. I worked there for years. I don't anymore.
Are you a gangster?
No, not. Well, do I have some history with my last name Lombardi? And yeah, forget about it, right? But hey, that's a whole nother podcast.
Are you Italiano?
Hey, forget about it. So when you understand that this strategy has days, weeks, months, years, decades, centuries of data that you can look at, which the 401k doesn't, right? The 401k scam only came out when Wall Street looked at how much money was in there. Because the 401k originally, I'm taking my word for it, Google it. 401k originally was supposed to just hold non-qualified money like a Roth IRA. And then the Wall Street was sitting there licking their chops like, oh, there's $1 billion in there. Again, we're talking 40 years ago. So that'd be like $1 trillion today, right? And they were like, oh, we want a cut of that. So they went to the government. They lobbied. They lobbied the government to make 401ks the ability to hold stocks and bonds. Well, why does the government give a crud if and in return it made it taxable? And they were like, how much money are we making? Yeah. We'll pass that law. Yeah. We'll allow stocks and bonds and 401ks. And people don't understand what a 401k. They don't understand what a target fund is. They don't understand the fees they're paying. They don't understand that. If you polled Americans and said, when I pull money out of my 401k, do I have to pay tax? At minimum, 25% of Americans would be like, no, it's taxes. It came out of my paycheck. It's like, no, it's all taxable because you are getting in bed with Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam's now going to take half of everything that's in there. The American, is going to take 100% of the risk, and Uncle Sam is going to take 50% of your principal and your interest, your growth, with no risk. Right? If you had $1 million, it grew to 2 million, you pull it out, you're paying $1 million in taxes, right? Because they're taking 50% of your principal plus your $1 million of growth. But what if I had $1 million that went to 500,000? Is Uncle Sam going to cover the $250,000 you lost? No. So you're partnering with somebody that can only extract and take from you and give nothing. Why haven't I heard of this, Joe? Why haven't I heard of this before? Well, do you think $1 trillion company can afford a $3 million Super Bowl commercial to say, hey, everybody, there's this strategy that you can do that's tax-free, sue-proof, divorce-proof in most states, averaging double-digit returns, and you can lean the money out and still earn interest on $1 and 2 streams of income on $1. Do you think they can afford that? Of course they can. It's illegal. Because if Americans tomorrow stopped the 401k, IRA, SEP, simple pension, deferred comp, 457, 403b, 529, Chet's, Rydell scam that they're in, it would cost the government trillions of dollars. Think of how many Americans have these accounts. What
kind of advice would you give as an alternative? Because that's all you're offered these days, mostly is a 401k or FRS plan. What are the other options?
Well, why are you offered that? Why is the business owner only offering you that? You have to really think about that, because the more money that's in that fund, the cheaper it is to the business owner, the more money the business owner makes. But I digress. So what I would do is if you have a matched account, like a 401k, that's matched, get the match, right? At best, the match is just going to cover the taxes. At worst, taxes are going to go up and the match won't even cover the taxes. You're going to lose part of your principal and growth on top of the match. That's gone, right? But because we do owe
So,
what, 37 trillion, which is now going to
yes.
be 40 trillion because of the big beautiful bill. So when you understand that, people don't understand, right? If I were to ask you, Joanne, what was the highest marginal tax rate in 1980? Oh, government didn't teach me that in school. It was
25%.
70.
It was 70%?
What was the highest
Wow.
marginal tax rate in the 1960s?
Oh, I don't know if it was 70. I would say 50?
92.
What?
Look it
Oh,
up. Go to
okay.
Google, type in 100-year.
Explain that.
Well, you have to understand, right? Why do you think the neocons, right before Trump took office, they started shooting missiles at Russia? Why? They're dying for World War III. Why do the neocons want World War III? Well, the neocons, the Federal Reserve, they are owed a lot of money. A lot of money. 40 trillion. That's a lot of money. So if you look at history, what was the tax rate before World War I? 7.5%. What was it after World War I? Or excuse me, 48 months, 4 years into World War I. What was it? 75%. That sounds like 1,000% increase on taxation in 48 months. Yeah, that's what happened. What happened after we
Wow.
won World War II? Taxes dropped back down to 25%. Why didn't they drop back down to 7.5%? I digress. They were at 25%. Then we had the Great Depression. Then we had the beginning of World War II. Well, where did taxes go in the beginning of World War II? They were 25%. They jumped to 80% in 48 months. Huh? Because I don't know, we weren't alive, but World War II, like they closed down factories and they started becoming military owned. So like you imagine a Forever 21 selling clothing all of a sudden. Now they're not selling clothes, they're selling uniforms
Mhm.
army uniforms. Like that's what it
They're
was.
making money
Right.
now.
And they're making a lot of money. And the government said we need it back because we're in a war and we don't want to lose the war. So all the Americans gave their time, which is your most valuable asset, not the dollars you exchange it for, to their country. Right. And that's how we won World War I and World War II. But why do you think they won World War III? Because you're thinking, 39.6, that's high. It's actually the second lowest tax environment from the middle of World War I, the Great Depression, and World War II. But again, do they teach you this in school? Tell me what class you learned highest marginal tax rates. Tell me what class you learned about 12B1 fees, Class A share fund fees, money manager fee, in-your account
They
fee.
don't.
Tell me what class they teach you about federal tax, state tax, FICA, Medicare, unemployment. So, do they teach you this?
Maybe
Why?
if you were a CPA, you might hear about the federal taxes, but
Why don't they teach an
not in
average
regular
American?
school.
They teach you about the quadratic formula, 2A over 4AC to over squared 2A. Why would they teach me that and not teach me about taxes? Because the more ignorant the human being that is the U.S. citizen is, the more they can be enslaved. Ignorant, dumb people are easy to take advantage of. Just look at all the CNN liberals. They're screaming at ICE agents while they're filming, getting their butt beat. It's funny. But so, because they're just brainwashed. CNN's like, go out there and protest. Or like, okay, CNN, sure. And they get their butt beat the crap out of by the ATF. And, I love watching those videos. But
So, Joe, you had mentioned the war, and it made me think, are you guys, you've been in business for what, 20 years?
Yep.
So
22.
do you have a lot of experience working with veterans and their retirement
Absolutely.
plans?
I work with a lot of
Because
patriots.
it's a little bit different than
The
a
average
regular retired
patriot is a
person.
little different than the average American because, again, I live in a blue state. I'm in Connecticut, even though I vote red and my town's red. I'm in a blue state, thanks, Ned Lamont. I pay a lot of taxes, right? So I had to find strategies. And the only reason I'm here is for my wife's family. If not, I'll get the heck out of here. But when you understand, like, what is going on, there is legal ways to arm and defend yourself that don't have long-term consequences. Right? No, everyone's like, I can put in an irrevocable trust, but then you give up rights to everything. Like, I don't want to do that. So it's like, what do? I'll do a revocable trust. That's not going to do much. That's just going to avoid probate. And both my strategies avoid probate, and you don't have to pay a lawyer $20,000 to do it. So if you understand that this strategy works and you have thousands of clients and zero complaints, and yes, unfortunately, I do work with some Karens, so imagine 0 complaints. That's hard. When you have that ability to say, okay, well, no, I like my gold and silver. Cool. Like, you like gold and silver? Awesome. I'm not here to undo the good work you've done, but what I'm telling you is maybe diversify your taxation, diversify your market exposure, diversify your liquidity. Why would you handcuff your money to your 59 and a half? Have that make sense to me. Why would the government put a 10% penalty for early withdrawals on your own money? Why? Because the government knows that almost 50% of people that have qualified money are going to take it, or they wouldn't bother putting a penalty on it. So when you look at 2008, right, per 100,000 you had in your account, you can look at 2020, COVID, same difference. The market lost 40%, 60 grand, 10% penalty, 54 grand. State taxes, 6.5%, right? Now you're at 50 grand. Federal income taxes, 28%. Now you're at 37,500. And it doesn't include FICA, Medicare, unemployment, or Social Security tax, which boosts you down under a third of your money was liquid during a down market. How much money the ultra rich is liquid during a down market to buy low, right? Because you want to buy low and sell high, right? But we have an inverse relationship because, again, I don't teach you this in school. Oh, shocker. Because you have something called smart money, institutional money, and dumb money, retail money. That's us, the American people. We're called dumb money. Look it up. So if you understand what's going on, you rather be with a strategy. Because if I have to drive from Connecticut, where I live now, to California, do I hop in my car on Tuesday and just go? Or do I pack, find cheap hotels, find nice places to go, make sure I have AAA, make sure my air is good, I have a full tank of gas, I have money in my account, or just hop in my car and go? Well, the average American hops in their car and goes. And when there's a flat tire, when there's a bad weather, there's a traffic jam, they're excuse my French, screwed. So I saw my dad happen. I saw my mom happen. I saw my grandmother happen. I saw my grandfather happen. So this stuff is and will happen to you and your family if you don't have plans and strategies around it. And if you're just financially like, whatever, I'll just throw some money in a crypto account, some Coinbase, I'll throw some money in some Webull or Robinhood, and I got some 401k, I'm all set. How good were you doing 2 months ago? Were you okay? Because then your money, your financial, messes with your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health. Oh my God, these tariffs, the market's down 30%. What am I going to do? I thought I could retire. What if you're 62, 64, God forbid 66 or 67, and you have to go through the tariffs because 100% of your money is in a 401k? Don't put all your eggs in one basket, but over 75% of Americans do. And you wonder why there's the welcome to Walmart strategy, where you have a bunch of old people, because they can't retire, that busted their butt for 50 years, that are still working instead of spending that time with their grandchildren, their spouse, their children. They have to work at Walmart 8 hours a day. Can I check your receipt? So if you're not doing anything about it, who will? Who will?
So Joe, I wanted to go back to 401ks because a lot of people have them. So if your company's matching, let's say your 401k at 7%, and you were talking about it just barely covering the taxes, would it be, instead of just matching it, would it be worth a person's time to put 9%, match it with 9%?
No.
Just match it evenly, and that's it. Don't go anywhere above that.
40% of the money that I have put under my strategy has been overfunding 401k dollars, because the average American doesn't even have $500 to buy a new set of tires tomorrow in cash. They had to pay for it in cash, right? So I'm well aware of that. So if you're matched 7%, just put in 7% and pray taxes don't go up. But unfortunately, I don't want to give you bad news. Taxes are going to go up. We owe $40 trillion. Government makes money one way. One way. Does government sell goods and services? Do they sell products? No. They sell your theft. They sell theft, stealing 50% of your crap and your time away from the people you love and your joy of being a human. They take half of that. So knowing how that works, right? Do you want to have a big qualified account? Now, again, do I want to be sued? No. So if you're matched, go to the match. Do I still think long-term it's not a great deal? It doesn't matter what I think. I want to keep my license. So yes, it's awesome. Keep doing the match. So that's what I tell my clients, on the record, match it. Like if you're making 100 grand a year and you're putting 7,000 in, they're matching you 7,000, keep doing it. And pray that taxes don't go up. Pray Joe Lombardi's wrong. Pray the numbers are wrong. Pray that our $40 trillion of debt's going to magically disappear like Bughazi, right? So pray. That's all you're going to be able to do, because when taxes go to 50, 60, 70%, like they were just 40 years ago, what are you going to do? Well, that's just more money that's not mine. The government's going to steal from me. Exactly. So if your company offers a Roth IRA, which some do, then take your contribution, put it in a Roth. 90% of the time, the match can't go in a Roth. So put the match in an IRA, or put the match in a 401k, put your contribution in a Roth. If your company allows Roth matches, which very few, they don't, because the company's getting half that money back they give you in write-offs on their bottom line, if you understand.
Can you explain to our viewers what a Roth is?
So a Roth IRA, right? You can look it up. Go to Forbes, type in rich person's Roth. That's my strategy. If you want to look at just a straight Roth IRA is basically a 401k. Same rules. The only difference is you don't get a write-off today. So the $15,000 I'm putting away, I don't say $5,000 today. Ooh, I really want my instant gratification. Well, that $15,000 grow like 200. So for every $5,000 you write off, you end up paying $100,000 later. That's how I can say I can save you millions in taxes, right? So the Roth is, let's say it's maxed at, well, 7,500 is maxed for a normal Roth IRA. But if it's a company-sponsored Roth IRA, you can put more than that in. So if you have to do a company match, do a Roth IRA. So what is a Roth IRA? Still a 10% penalty, still a 59.5-year rule, something called FILO, first and last out. So let's say I put in 100 grand, it's worth 200. The government forces you to pay taxes and penalties on a tax-free account if you take it before you're 59.5. So if let's say I had 200 in there, I needed 50 grand, government's going to say, bad American citizen. You're going to pay us a penalty, federal tax, state tax, FICA, Medicare, unemployment on your growth before you can even access your principal, what I put in. So that strategy, my strategy, if you have 200 grand in it, you need 50, all of it's tax-free. No 59.5-year rule, no 10% penalty. All of your growth is tax-free because it's under the umbrella of IRS code section 7702. And that's what my clients utilize.
When I was looking at your website, under the life insurance tab, there's indexed universal life. What is that?
So IUL is the main vein of long-term financial freedom and growth. That is a strategy that allows my clients to build money tax-free, liquid, sue-proof, right? Sue-proof. Well, if you get sued with a 401k, that's open. My clients get sued with $10 million in a 401k, it's closed. Well, how is it closed? HIPAA. Remember HIPAA from COVID?
Yeah, I remember
because
HIPAA.
Life insurance, there's no database of how much you have in life insurance. So there's emperors, kings, Dubai people, sports athletes that dump in 50 million, 100 million, 200 million, 500 million into life insurance, and they pull it out. So an IUL can also be termed with index. It's an index universal life, but it can be termed with infinite banking. Be your own bank, hence a book I've written on Amazon, which I'll send to all your listeners for free. Just send an email to joe@ironhawkfinancial.com and say, I want some free information. We don't have to meet. You'll never hear from me. You won't want any type of email list. I'm just trying to get this information out before, the government takes me out. Because at the end of the day, when you understand that this is real, it's not BS. I don't have decades of existence in a company. I wouldn't make millions of dollars a year, which I do, if what I was doing wasn't real. If what I was doing was some fake. Somebody in 22 years would go to Better Business Bureau and give me a complaint. One person out of the thousands and billions of dollars that I have, one person would say, oh, this is BS. Zero. So this strategy is real, but we're not legally allowed to advertise on a mass scale. That's why when's the last time you saw a commercial for an investment? They can show you a commercial, say, get the jab, go ahead and have heart palpitations and complications for the next 50 years of your life or die. They can sell you, hey, get 2 beers, side effects are death and your leg's going to fall off. They can sell you that stuff. but you never see a commercial. You see it for alcohol, see it for tobacco, see it for pharmaceuticals, but never financial. Huh. Wow. How does financial? Oh, they sponsor? Like Northwestern Mutual sponsors the NCAA tournament. MetLife sponsors a New York Giants football team, right? All we do is sponsor. We can never, ever mass scale tell people because the government doesn't allow it. Why? We're all conspiracy theorists, which really just means you think for yourself. Think for yourself, viewers. Why have you never seen a financial commercial that says, hey, this is what this strategy does. This is what this product does. This is what this investment does. Huh. Because the government doesn't want you to know or think, right? Obey, obey, little peasant. They want you to obey. They don't want you to think for yourself. These strategies are what the millionaires and billionaires do. Think about it. Let's take Shohei Ohtani. He's not my client, but let's just take them for example. He's a baseball player. He's got a $700 million baseball contract to be traded from the Angels to the Dodgers, right? Where does he put his money? Like, let's put our thinking caps on or our tinfoil hats, shall we? Where does he put in a 401k? No, he can only do 19,500 because he's not 55 and a half or older, so he can't do 26,000, which still is nothing to 700 million. Okay, does he put in a bank like Bank of America? Well, no, because it's only $250,000 FDIC insurance. So I'm not going to put 700 million in something where I'm only insured for less than 1/40% of my money. No. Does he put his money in SEPs or Simples or 403Bs? No. How about Roth IRAs? No. He puts his money in annuities because they're guaranteed to pay out later. Because you hear about all the rappers and athletes who lose all their money, and then what happens 10 years later? They're not broke, they're bankrupt, which means they spent more money than the 40 million they got. They spent 43 and they were paid 40. That's called bankrupt. You're negative, right? So think about it. So where does he put his money? He puts it into annuities, index universal life, and whole life. That's where all the wealthy people. How do banks transact money between banks overnight calls? How do they do that? They just say, hey, Bob at Bank of America. Yeah, Peter at Chase. I need $30 million because I'm short because we spent more money to you. No, they use life insurance. Look it up. Bank-owned life insurance. Google it. You don't have to take my word for it. So when you understand what's really going on, you say, do I want to do what all the losers and peasants are doing? Or do I want to do what all the winners and millionaires and billionaires are doing? And that's the strategy that I bring to my clients.
How often do you stay in contact with your clients? Do you have like a pretty close relationship? Do they call you often throughout the year, or what kind of relationship do you have?
So I mean, my clients or my team, we have a large team. We're growing every day. Just hired 3 more agents today. We're national, working all 50 states.
So how many agents do you have now?
Closers, I think got about 10, openers, about 50, strategic alliances, about 100, other professionals that refer us business, and we pay out referral fees as long as they have a business, because it's illegal to pay someone who's not licensed. But if they're not licensed, we can pay an LLC, right? That's the loophole. So, it all depends. I have some clients I meet quarterly, right? If they have a lot of money, there's a lot of products. I had a client just literally yesterday give me $3 million. That's a client I want to meet quarterly, right? If somebody wants to invest $200, $300, $400, $500 a month, that's a client that I would meet annually or biannually. At the end of the day, if you can't lose and everything's on your phone, you could view it 24/7. I don't have to meet with my clients. If they need me, they have my cell phone and they have my Calendly, right? I have clients that book 15-minute, 30-minute, or hour meetings on my Calendly if they need something. A lot of the time, it's referrals. Hey, I did this strategy with you. It's going great. I just referred you my buddy Bob, right? Or I just referred you my sister Sarah. Or my dad just had a stroke. He passed away. I inherited. That's how I got the $3 million. One of my client's brothers died in Texas. He's in Connecticut. He came to my office. We rolled over $3 million, right? So these are the things that work, right? At the end of the day, if you can't lose, right, you're covering what? Market loss. If you have the ability to earn historically, one of my strategies averaging 16.72% over the last 10 years, documented by a $1 trillion company, managed by Morgan Stanley. Pretty cool. And when you have these strategies in place, people are like, this feels like cheating. Well, don't you think the millionaires and billionaires have been cheating you for years? decades, centuries. Why not do what they do? You heard of the Nancy Pelosi strategy. Just buy whatever fun Nancy Pelosi does and play the guppy game, right? She's the shark, and if you swim under her, whatever those fishes are called, they're not guppies, but you can see the visual of the little fish swimming under the shark. That's what I do for my clients. I say, listen, I'm not the smartest man in the room, but I'll tell you what these guys are doing. And here, let me build you a plan and let me show you what the strategy is. Let me show you, well, what if I can put more in? What if I can put less in? What if I can't put anything in? What if I need the money? What if I die? What if I get disabled? What if I need long-term care? Well, how much money do I have? Where? It's all there. It's all there. It's all in writing. It's all guaranteed by companies that are mutual, surviving the Civil War, World War I, Great Depression, World War II. It takes the uncertainty out of financial planning.
Do you guys have attorneys working for you?
I have a lot of tax attorneys, estate attorneys that have strategic alliance programs with us. One of my best deals was last year. I made over 600 G's on one deal, but the guy rolled over $27 million. And that was directly from an estate attorney in Connecticut that he needed to do it, because I turned 2.6 million or 26 million that would have gone through estate taxes and ordinary income taxes to both of his sons, right? So 26 turns to 13, 13 turns to 6 million. I took the 26, and you can do this on a way lower scale. I took the 26 million, I put in an income annuity. Well, interest rates are high. So I locked in guaranteed 9% on the income. So 9% of 27 million is like 2.4 million a year. That 2.4 million a year is going to go through taxation, netting about 1.8. I took the 1.8 million, bought a second to die life insurance policy. Do you know how much money 1.8 million of annual premium buys? It bought him almost $100 million.
This was all for this one person?
One client.
So this was like a bundle you did for him?
There's a strategy I do that nobody else in the country is doing. Find it. Nobody's doing it. It's FIA to IUL. It's awesome. And it protects both of your money, and it makes sure that you're historically, right? Because no guarantee of past performance, no guarantee of future results. But historically, and we haven't had the best history the last 10 years, I'll tell you that, with COVID. So historically, the strategy is averaging, the guarantee of 9% income. So I just turned a 26 million taxable through two different filtrations of taxes, which is what, right? 7 million into almost 100 million guaranteed. Put the second to die $100 million policy in an irrevocable life insurance trust called ILIT Trust. Google it. It's pretty cool. So then when the husband and wife die, because it's the second to die, it pays nothing on the first death of one spouse, but when both spouses die, now $100 million goes into an irrevocable trust. Does irrevocable trust pay estate taxes? No, it's not owned by you anymore. It has its own tax ID. So it avoids estate taxes. Well, you have to pay ordinary income taxes, right? No, because life insurance is legally tax-free. Hence the strategy of Section 7702. It's the code embedded in the life insurance policy of a permanent life insurance contract. That's the genius of it.
So right? The irrevocable trust, does it have a beneficiary or anybody?
Well, yeah, you have a trustee, you have a grantor, and you have a beneficiary. So now both of my clients' sons are going to be able to pull $100 million out tax-free instead of netting $7 million tax-free from that same asset.
Is that something that can get stuck in probate?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Okay,
Trust
that's important.
Avoid probate. Yeah, you don't have to worry about your cousin or uncle or aunt coming out and say, oh, well, Bob said I get his ranch, I get his house, I get that 401k. It doesn't matter what you say. It's incontestable in court by law.
In every state?
Every state, all 50.
And where are your locations? Do you have your locations throughout the country?
I have agents. We're across the country. So we usually do Zoom meetings, but I have a physical office in Connecticut, physical office in Delaware. We're building a physical office in Arizona where my sister's going to be running Ironhawk West. So, but we usually just do our meetings on Zoom because, again, men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. And I could just share my screen and build a plan, even if it's $300 a month, or if it's rolling over $3 million, it's the same thing. It just has more zeros. So at the end of the day, that strategy does exactly what it does at a lower scale as it does as a very higher scale. That's why I bring the strategies of the ultra wealthy to the blue collar market. That's how I got on the cover of the Who's Who in Building and Construction, because I work with over 1,000 blue collar business owners nationwide. And that's how
When did that come out?
That was summer of 2021. On the top.
Summer of 2021.
Yep. And then I got on the cover of the top 40 under 40 in the country, which is came
Was
out in
that 2021?
2023.
Oh, 2023.
Yeah, I just turned 40 in at the end of 2023. I'll be 41 in a couple months. So when you understand that this strategy works, I have all the accolades, all the reputation, anything you need to say, oh, this guy's a scammer or full of crap, look me up, because my strategies work, period.
Now, how are your agents qualified? Are they all
They're all trained by
licensed?
me. They're all
Are they?
licensed.
They're
I
all
do
licensed
training
and
twice a
trained.
week, every Monday, every Wednesday. I teach them the strategy. And then if they meet somebody who's wealthy, they bring it to a closer. So we have openers, we have closers. So maybe the opener just knows a little bit to get them in trouble. So they would refer that to a closer who can go step by step how the strategy works. And then at the end of the day, the clients say, yeah, this is better than a 401k, hence one of the books I've written.
Now, does this strategy really work well with lower income, middle class families, or is it a strategy that works better if you're in the higher income bracket?
It works the same. If you put in $10 or $10 million, you're in the same fund. So what an option contract is, think of like your dollars go into $1 billion block. That $1 billion block could be consisted of 1 billion people putting $1 in, or 10 people putting in 100 million. It goes into a closed end block. Then that block is traded by a company. If it's Allianz, it's traded by their own in-home option contracts, which are the only one who does it. It's pretty cool. But if it's like a company like National Life Group or a company like PacSun, those companies use like Bears and Stearns, or they use BlackRock, right? They use third-party investment contracts to go in there. So you're in that block, right? And there's usually a holding time on your dollars. So not to your 59.5, right? But there's usually a holding time on average 2 to 3 years. You start having some real liquidity, but it's a 10-year full liquidity strategy. And so what most of my clients do, depending on their age, their time horizon, their risk tolerance, when do they need the money, we build it as such. So if the client is a 10-year time horizon, most of my clients dump most of their retirement income in there. If you're like, Joe, I'm retiring in 3 years, I'm going to need $100,000 a year out of this $1 million or $2 million I accumulated. Then we leave $4 or $5 million, and we build a strategy where we roll that into an IRA managed by one of our, investment license agents. And then they would make sure your money's safe. We can put them in fixed accounts. We can put them in a diversified portfolio. But at the end of the day, if you have the time horizon, you don't have the money, and you need that risk, you don't want to be going to the casino, putting your whole retirement on black, and when it comes out red, you're losing everything. And that's what happens to most people in their 50s and 60s. They have to be aggressive because they have less than 1 year of their income saved, and they're 62. Well, if you ain't ever retiring, because you retire at 68 with 2 times your income. Okay, now you're 70. Now you're broke. What are you going to do? Go back to work? So that's why we're seeing the retiree age. People aren't wanting to retire, which is hurting the youth for promotions, hurting them to grow, because the higher paid positions are usually still being paid by people that should have retired 36 months ago, 60 months ago, and they're still in that position because they didn't save. And if you fail to plan, your plan's to fail. So you need to have a plan in place to protect your legacy, protect the government taking your house and everything you own. If you need long-term care, you can't take care of yourself. Who's going to pay that $300,000 a year? Well, if the government's paying for it, they're throwing you in a 10 by 10 cell known as a nursing home with a stranger. That's not how you want to live. I'm telling you. I saw it happen to my grandmother and my father, who's now has Parkinson's disease, in Ludlow Nursing Home. No, he's in Skyview Nursing Home in Wallingford. My grandmother was in Ludlow Nursing Home in Fairfield, both in Connecticut. It's not fun. Nobody celebrates Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays, Easter, 4th of July, because that environment is very, it's depressing. I mean, I have 3 children, and yes, they see their grandfather once in a while, but no, it's not fun. Nobody's like, yay, we're going to the nursing home. So it's one of those things where you want to stay home. And I have strategies that will keep you home, guaranteed, backed by trillion-dollar companies. You're going to receive that money to pay for that person. And when you're in a nursing home, can you fire the person that's taking care of you? No. So if they're having a bad day, you piss them off, they pissed you off, you're stuck with them. And if you're ringing the bell and they don't come, those are your bed sores. Like, this happens. This is not fugazi. This isn't a fear tactic. This is what happens. right? So you rather stay home. How about the food? Are you able to fire the chef? What if you're in a home that has really shitty food? Excuse my French. What are you gonna do? You're stuck. Have your tuna sandwich and peanut butter and jelly for the next 2 years before you die, right? So you get to hire and fire your own cook. You get to hire and fire your own caregiver when you get to be in your own house. And that's what my clients want to do because they don't want to be put in that position.
So, Joe, have your clients stayed with you a long time, or have you had clients that started with your program and then got off your program? What's the longevity of your clientele?
My retention is 99.6%.
That's good.
If people
That's
are making
really
money,
good.
people have the flexibility to lower or increase their contribution based on financial life experiences. That's why the strategy I use is called flex pay. It's flexible premium. So if you have a bad year, you can only do $500 a month. You have a great year, you can do $2,000 a month. Your grandmother dies, leaves you 50 grand. You can dump it in. You want to pull it out to buy vehicles. I teach my clients how to buy all their cars for free. For free. How do you buy a car for free? If look up non-direct recognition, right? Non-direct recognition. Think of something like Elon Musk. If he needs to buy a SpaceX rocket, he has two choices. Let's say a SpaceX rocket's $100 million. He has two choices. He can sell $200 million of Tesla stock, pay $100 million in taxes because that $200 million comes from his income because he sold it, lose out on the $200 million that asset was paying him in the future because he sold it. He no longer owns it. Net the $100 million by the SpaceX rocket. Or he can do what my clients do. Take $100 million to a bank, get a collateralized assignment, a loan, a lien against that $100 million of Tesla stock, because that's an asset. How much taxes do you pay on loans? That would be $0. So $0 paid in taxes. Well, now you got this loan interest, negative amortization against you. The strategy still pays you as if the $100 million is in the account. So if the strategy's averaging 14%, which it is, and I can prove it to you in writing, and the loan rate's 5%, which it is, what's 9% positive rate of return on a loan? That's called a negative interest rate. So now you're making 9% on money that's not there. It's in the SpaceX rocket. So now he has a positive rate of return on his Tesla stock, which is higher than the loan rate he's paying. He paid $0 in taxes, and he still owns the $100 million of shares. So when that rocket shoots up and he makes all this money, he can pay back the loan. And he lost nothing, actually made money on the loan. That's what rich people do. You ever heard of like Kiyosaki, rich dad, poor dad?
Oh, yeah.
There is some things of good debt. But the average American, all their debt is bad. Your mortgage, look at the amortization. You think you're paying 3%? How much is interest per monthly check? 50 to 80. Yeah, 3%.
Yeah.
Car notes. Those good? What's the average rate right now for a car note? 6 years, 11.2%. So
Is it really that high?
Oh, yeah. Look it up.
Oh, my goodness.
I went to Jaguar in 2023.
I don't have the car note.
I bought a brand new Jaguar. I went to a credit union, and they offered me 3%. So I was going to pay for it in cash. I'm like, you're going to have me 3%. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Cadillacs. I bought my wife a new Escalade, and they wanted to charge me 11% on a brand new Escalade with an 820 credit score. So I just wrote a check. I was like, oh, how much? 132 grand. All right. So
That's
I bought
really
my wife
high.
a brand new Escalade. Well, interest rates are high. You know, that's why do you think Trump? Go online. Trump is begging the Federal Reserve to lower rates, and the Federal Reserve is like, I can't. You mother effers owe us $40 trillion. We ain't lowering nothing. And that's the fight going on with Powell and Trump. When you really look at economics, which the average American knows nothing about, I have a degree in it. When you look at what's going on, it's not hard to see what's going on. There's too much money was printed in COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
a ton.
And lower interest rates. They're trying to. They want to for our kids. You know, my 3 children, 16, 13, and 10. I would love a 0% interest rate in a housing market my children can afford, but we're not in that world. So I have to work my butt off to buy my 3 children houses and hope that in 10 years or whatever, they have good paying jobs so they can take over the mortgages. If not,
you're not going to buy them their houses. They got to do that themselves.
I don't have a choice, because if not, I'm going to put them behind the 8 ball. Like, my children are my everything. That's why I'm building this company, because 2 of my 3 children said, Dad, I want to work at Ironhawk Financial. And if I was the only person there, which I was a couple of years ago, it was just me, but I was still doing really well. If you think you have a business, but it's just you, if you are the business, you don't have a business. So you have to build it. And that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, remember that as parents, it's good for the kids to learn how to pay for stuff on themselves. So
There's a fine line between entitlement and
charge them
unaccountability.
a little bit of interest so they
I
understand.
taught my kids well, but at the same time, if the real world right now is real bad for
It
young
is.
people.
It really
So
is.
I'm
I've got
gonna.
a 28-year-old and it's tough.
I mean,
You
he's
know,
probably still renting because I mean, how does a
it's my
28-year-old buy a
daughter.
house? Or
Oh yeah,
she?
she could barely, they
So
can't
how much
afford,
money
they
is?
can't afford an apartment by
So
themselves. They
she's
have to
either
have
still living
roommates
with
now.
mommy at almost 30. It sucks.
No, she doesn't live with me, but she has a roommate. She
A
lives in
roommate.
Colorado
Awesome. Well, that's good,
and
but
she
it's
has a
really
roommate.
tough.
It
So I'm
is.
trying to work my butt off to give my children a head start so they can actually own something, build something, own their own businesses with Ironhawk Financial. I teach them everything I know. I have my sister working with me. I have my other sister wanting to join, my other brother wanting to join. It's growing
A
fast,
big
and I'm very
family
blessed.
business. That's
Well,
pretty
that's what I
awesome.
wanted Ironhawk to be. I'm a Lombardi. You know, we take care of our own. When I take care of my
Gotta
sister
take
at
care of
15,
family.
I had a choice. Am I going to go to DCF when I'm 15 and my sister's 2, or am I going to keep my mouth shut and drop out of football, track, and basketball, work at a daycare? Like, that's what I did. You know, like you have to do what you have to do.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. So, Joe, for your last 15 seconds, tell everybody where they can get a hold of you. I've got it down here on the bottom. You've got some information you could share with them and let them know how they can get that information.
Yeah, if anybody wants my 3 books for free, my articles, the 2 Forbes articles, Rich Person's Roth for free, my radio show, Money Talk with Ironhawk on Apple Podcasts, Podcast Co., all 26 episodes for free. My website, my YouTube video, send you all for free. Just write an email to joe@ironhawkfinancial.com and just put, hey, I heard you on the Binford Chronicles, or hi, I'm interested in your stuff. I will send you everything, no obligation, no cost, zero. I make more than enough money. I don't need to nickel and dime your viewers, Joanne. So at the end of the day, I just try and get this information out, because at the end of the day, if I can help one person, one family, one child, it's worth all this time I'm doing on all these podcasts across the country.
Well, thank you, Joe. You have a compelling story on how you got started and your childhood and the strength that you had to get through all of that and become a successful entrepreneur. And now you've got your family involved. So I want to thank you for joining us today. And everybody, go to www.ironhawkfinancial.com and you can visit Joe, email him at joe@ironhawkfinancial.com, empowering your life's financial journey with expert advice, and he will have a special plan for you just as you need it. Well, thank you, Joe. I'm going to send you to the green room and close out the show. Thank you so much again for joining us here at Binford Chronicles.
Thank you, Joanne. Have a wonderful night.
You too. Well, thank you everybody for joining us here at Binford Chronicles today. That was really a great show on financial information that we all need to hear. I want to ask you to hit the like and share button. Please make sure you share this with your friends and family. And to get notifications when Binford Chronicles goes live, click the notifications tab. And for my podcast viewers, visit IndianRiverConnections.com. This is a network of partnership between me, Binford Chronicles, To The Point Podcast, TGI Now Podcast, and we have another podcast there called the Connecting People and Places podcast, as well as the Board Report, which airs every Friday at 7 p.m. That's right. The Board Report airs every Friday at 7 p.m. So remember to visit IndianRiverConnections.com to see our network of podcasters, and make sure you check us out on Rumble, X, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you again for joining us at Binford Chronicles.